Hi guys, afternoon. Cometh the day, cometh the man. I've been watching last week a couple of things really. Obviously I've had to watch Donald, but I've been watching Andrew Cuomo, and the difference is amazing. The actual fundamental difference in people. Where people are coming from, what their attitudes are. It's very easy to think that we're all the same, that we genuinely are the same sort of people. But when you watch the difference between those two men, Trump and Cuomo, just where they're fundamentally coming from is a very, very different place. Now, I wondered if any of you are at a loose end and you don't know what to do yourself at the moment. I wonder if any of you would like to join in and experiment. I'm not going to do this myself. I need to be an observer of this. But what I'd like you to do is have a look in your house. Now, find a room that's about 12 foot by about 8 foot. Okay. There's one upstairs on the second floor here that's about that sort of size. And in it, I want you to put a bed. Okay. And then I want you to put another bed in there. Obviously, being 12 foot by 8 foot, you really want to put a bunk bed in there. Okay. Then what I want you to do is I want you to put a sink in there. And then what I want you to do is to put a toilet in there. Okay, well that might not be easy. Maybe the nearest thing to a 12 foot by 8 foot room you've got in your house with a toilet in it is your bathroom. So maybe go in your bathroom, see if you can make your bath into a bed. Okay. And just stay in there. Don't use the rest of the house. Just go and stay in that room. Try and stay in there for a day. Okay. Oh yeah, there needs to be 2 of you. So try and get 2 people into your bathroom and stay in there for a day. Now that's going to be awkward, especially if you haven't had a pony before you get in there. But if you're in there and you need to have a wee or a number 2, as they say, just have a shit, have a piss. Try going to sleep in there, obviously the 2 of you, because over here that's what we do. We take people, usually men. It's the greatest piece of sexual discrimination we do in this country. 95% of all prisoners in this country are men, whereas half of the people are women. Now, there are all sorts of reasons why there is this difference, but let's just observe that fact. So get 2 men, stick them in a room that's 12 by 8, stick in a bunk bed, stick in a sink, stick in a toilet, give them somewhere where they can sort of lean on to write, and lock them up in that for 23 hours a day, for, I don't know, for a few years. You don't have to be locked in your bathroom to make this experiment work. Just get in there and try and sleep while someone else is trying to have a shit. Try and sleep and become a better person while you're having to listen to someone else cry or snore. You'll know, any of you that know me, that I'm quite vociferous about prisons. I don't have a problem with prisons. I don't think there's you can make any case that says we don't need to have prisons. In certain circumstances we do, but what we don't need is a situation where we're unnecessarily putting people in prison. Now, what I say is unnecessary is there are 2 reasons why you would put someone in prison. Number 1 reason, that's to protect the public. Okay, so if you have someone who's a mad ass bastard, who you've try to contain and reform, and every time you do anything they just injure other people, that person, for the protection of society, needs to be in prison. If you've got someone who's not that, and who just is on the rob, or they're doing things that aren't good, or they're selling drugs, or all sorts of other stuff, then you need to think about what you're using your prison for. And most of what we use our prisons for is for what we call a deterrent. So we figure that if we send people to prison, it will deter other people from doing stuff. Therefore, we won't have to send more people to prison because other people will be deterred. And what happens with our prisons is exactly not that. It says what happens with our prisons is that we send people in there, we send kids in there, we send young men in there, and we debase and demoralise and break them and send them back out into the world, worse people, who are going to commit more crime. Now, I put forward a rationale for what we should do in this book. I know I was pushing it last week, but I'm back to it. Put victims first, which says this: if instead of putting someone in prison in a 12-by-8 room with someone else and asking them to listen to someone's shit for a year, we did this. We took them, we put them in a humane, purpose-built cell that's, I don't know, say 20 by 12. It's got a bed in there, nice white walls or whatever, sort of skylight so you can see some sun or whatever, and nothing else. What we could do is, instead of putting them in that cell listening to someone's shit for a year, we said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to put you in solitary confinement for a month. Now, some of you will be going stir crazy when you've been able to run up and down the streets and, oh, I'm a bit worried because I can't do this, I can't do that. But you've had a lot of freedom, right, compared to being in prison. And you're already beginning to feel the emotional and mental effect it has on you. When you put someone in prison, it's a very, very serious thing we as a society do. If we could say, instead of putting someone in prison for a year, we said, right, we're going to put you in prison for 30 days, and it had the effect that we wanted, i.e. it deterred them from doing what they were going to do previously, then we would have had a result and they would have had a result. We wouldn't have taken a year out of their life, we'd have taken 30 days. We wouldn't have spent 150,000 putting them in prison, we'd have spent 30,000, or whatever the amount is. There's obviously a massive financial gain to be had from thinking about what I'm saying, but there's also a moral gain, and there's also an actual gain. Because what happens when you put young men in prison, and I know because I've worked with a lot of young offenders, is you take someone who's struggling to grow up and behave the way society wants them to behave, and you fuck them over. You just destroy their lives, you destroy the fabric of their life, you take them out of what if any, decency and decent support system they've got that would help them, and you throw them into a pit that you wouldn't throw your own kids into, and you do that at great cost to everyone, cost to the taxpayer, cost to the offender, and cost to future victims, because it doesn't make things better, it fucking makes them worse. Okay, so what I suggest anyway is get rid of these short-term sentences and replace them with much shorter sentences served in solitary confinement. Now, the difference between being in a room with someone else shitting in that room for a year and you stuck in a room for 30 days on your own is that you get to think about what you're about, and you don't get corrupted by the other person, you don't get corrupted by the other inmates, you don't have to become an animal just to survive, you don't have to learn bad new ways, you don't join a club of people whose rite of passage is that they're in that club, they've done time here, they've done chokey there or whatever. And by actually saying, well, what we're going to do is, instead of having these sentences, a year of this or whatever, we're going to replace them with much, much shorter sentences. We do that for 3 possible offences. So we say, first sort of serious offence, I'm going to assume that someone has done something that we've not been able to deal with by using community service or something or other, and the person is still offending, or the nature of their crime is so serious that we need to take a very drastic action. We say, you're going into prison for 30 days. When you come out, we're going to hold over you a suspended sentence of 30 days, another 30 days in solitary. If you are arrested or in trouble for anything in the next 6 months or a year, you go straight back into prison and serve those 30 days. Then we go to court. Then we look at what we're going to do with you in the future. And you then basically have what I regard as 3 sentences: 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Okay, so if someone comes back and repeat offends, you say, well, it didn't work doing it for 30 days, we'll put you in for 60 days, and then a hold over them when we let them out, the 60 days for a period of a year or 2. Or we then say, well, 60 days didn't work, 90 days is what we're going to do. So instead of going for 1 year, 4 years, 7 years, we go 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. In the event that someone then reoffends, what we can say is we've tried the most humane way that we can of getting you to help you to live like everyone else does, and that's not working, and you now are a threat to society, so we need to send you to a prison. Okay, and in that prison, you're going into the prison for a much longer time. So prisons, instead of being anything from 3 weeks to 3 months to 30 years, become places of minimum terms of 7 and upwards. And some prisons we are not going to be able to let some people out of. And I fully understand that you are going to meet some people who you won't be able to let out. I've met some of these people, and the idea that society could be safe around someone whose mental process works the way some people's do just isn't the goer. So I am trying to get people to think about what they do with their prisons. Everyone thinks, well, you're too extreme about what you're doing. Go into your bathroom, sit in your bathroom, try sleeping in there, get someone to shit in the toilet while you're in the bathroom trying to have sleep, and stay in there. See if you can stay in there for a day, because that might help you empathise and see what this problem is. The problem needs a solution, and the solution isn't to keep doing the same thing wrong that we're doing. You don't get anywhere by continually doing the same thing badly. You need to learn some lessons and get on. At any rate, I'll leave you with one thought, and that's about Donald Trump. And that's this, that while you're watching what's going on in the States and you think, oh God, I really don't like Trump. I don't think I'm on my own there. Do I think the Americans are going to re-elect him? Yes. The reason for that is it's incredibly hard for anyone to politic in a war situation. So if you watch it, he's shutting down everything all the time. He is running a full-blown election campaign, and no one else can campaign because they just cannot. There is not the moral room for you to get in and criticise. That is the nature of campaigning in a war, and it's called a khaki election, and invariably it means that the incumbent wins. I think the only thing that will stop Donald from a second term is COVID. It's going to become an incredibly well-known phrase. That's about the only thing, which, given his social distancing technique, you never know. tin hats on this week, guys. We'll have to see what happens. You know, how's the stock market going to react to this? I can't see that we're not going to just settle back down to the lows of a week or so back and look again and start to think about the future. Okay, I'm off. Bye.